Welcome to the Human Conversation Podcast with Jules White, the real dragon slayer, author and entrepreneur sales coach. Tune in weekly for human conversation about business and sales. Enjoy business expert interviews, educational episodes, and virtual cuppers with entrepreneur business owners. So grab yourself a cuppa and enjoy. Here is your host, Jules White.
So welcome everybody to the Human Conversation with Jules White and a very special guest today. So I'm going to tell you about him in a minute. We're episode 22, I believe now, which is amazing. I don't know how we've made that many episodes, but I have. And so today I have a fabulous guest who is from across the pond, as we say. So he's from Austin in Texas. I'll make sure I get that right. And it's Doug Thompson. Doug, welcome to my podcast show.
Well, thanks, Jules. And I like even numbers, 22. You know, that's sort of a nice thing to be able to do. So thank you very much and greetings from Texas.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk to you all about where you are and what you do, and we're going to put the world to rights because that's what the Human Conversation is all about. But first of all, I want to just tell the audience what you do currently. So you are at Microsoft, obviously a huge brand we all know about, and you call yourself a technical strategist. So I want to know, what does that mean, Doug? What does that mean?
Well, that's my official title at Microsoft. So I'm more like the tech nerd explainer. That was probably a better explain for that. I take the business problems that everybody has, and ultimately, you buy things to solve problems or to enable new things. And then we have this technology, which is vast. I mean, we added 500-600 new features just last year. So it's impossible to sort of stay on top of all of it, but I need to know how it fits together. How does it solve that business problem? And I sort of live in that area, we'll call it the unicorn zone, where I can speak tech and I can speak business and sort of marry the two together.
That's amazing. And there's not many unicorns around, are there? Let's face it.
It's sort of like Natalia. Maybe I'll put on a little blue or pink uniform costume and run around.
But it is interesting because obviously the mind of this technical person is actually can be quite different to the mind of that salesperson. And so to have those two skills coming together is pretty awesome, I think.
Yeah, we have brilliant people at Microsoft, as you may imagine, on that one. I'm constantly amazed by the knowledge and the passion that everybody has around here. But if you listen to a bunch of engineers talking to each other, it's a completely different discussion than what a marketing or in my case, I'm in the education field, what a chancellor or provost may have. It's different, sort of different things. So I'm like the UN translator. They're speaking with you here, and I try to use analogies a lot or metaphors that the business owners can understand, but it's sort of focused. Here's what this is like from a technology perspective.
And I like that because I think, one of my things with my sales coaching is keeping it simple. We hear this a lot, don't we? And I think we have this tendency as humans to overcomplicate things. We're so good at that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Especially if you're very, very bright and you're really excited about this technical specification that does this one thing. And I can see where it's really cool. And I like that. And we, amongst we'll call them the nerds, and amongst the nerds, They all think it's really cool. It's a little bit like Big Bang Theory. I don't know if you watched that show in the UK or not.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
But there's a bunch of Sheldons which really have trouble relating to everybody else. So I'm sort of like a Leonard in that scenario on that one.
And you just connect the two together.
I just try to connect it. I'm the conduit, which where that goes on. And it's sort of funny. It started back in high school when I thought about it. I was in band. I have asthma, and so PE was you sit down there and don't die. That was sort of the on that, but I hung out with the in US we call them jocks or the athletes and the other things. I can hang out with that group. I can hang out with the nerds. I can hang out with these other ones, and I just sort of had that ability to sort of float around those things and sort of fit in all those spheres. So it's something that upon reflection, it's one of those things you look back on life and say, yeah, okay, I can connect the dots back that way.
Yeah.
If I was young and sort of in that thing, I could never see where it would have gone.
I think that's really good skill to have as well, isn't it? And it means you're obviously interested in people, I think, to be able to do that, as I am. I love people to be different, actually. If they were all the same as me, I think I'd get quite bored, really. So
I spend a week with the nerds, and I'm really looking for some business people and all that because my brain hurts because I just realized how how brilliant they are compared to what my standpoint is. I need to,
Yeah,
and not that the business people aren't brilliant, it's just different skill set. And if we go back to the Clifton Strengths type thing, so I've taken that test with the 34 talents. Adaptability is my number one talent, which for my job, because I'm constantly talking about something else,
yeah,
is very powerful. Then my second one is input. So I'm constantly reading and learning and trying to get up to speed on all those things, both again from the business side, what I might read in the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times, and then when I'm reading, from the technical specifications. So I like all that, and my mind is just sort of this thing that's constantly trying to find these vectors where the two sort of meet.
Lovely. I love that. And so are you customer facing in your role?
Yeah, I look back on my career and the times where I struggled, I didn't do so well, is when I was sort of facing internal teams and doing that. So much better when I'm out and actually working with customers, and at the end of the day, you can sort of say, yeah, I helped do that. I helped do those things, and it's really rewarding that way when you can see that you impacted their business in a productive way, positive way, and yet you're shining the light on what our brilliant engineers are able to do. So it's really a great place to be.
Absolutely. I love it. So we obviously met on LinkedIn. Let's just put that one out there. Obviously, we haven't sort of face-to-face met because the distance element.
Yeah.
I am obviously, one of my goals is that I definitely come back to the US after my recent trip to Boston, which I loved, by the way. But I think that it's important the audience know that we've met on LinkedIn, because I've got quite a few of my guests now who are coming on because I've met them on LinkedIn. What an amazing platform that is.
Oh, I've met people that I would never have been able to. There's a lot of people in Australia I've connected with, done some things. And then so I'm trying to go worldwide with that. And in a previous role in Microsoft, I traveled around a little bit. I hit the UK a couple of times, in Germany. And for some reason they put the 6'4", 240-pound dude in Asia, which I sort of stuck out.
I'm sure.
But it was great. It was, I had a great experience. And the more you get to meet people, the more you can appreciate, one, where you're from, but then you can also have a broader picture of the world, and you can sort of understand, where people are coming from. And again, when I tell a story, much like you, when you're trying to create that analogy or metaphor, you have to understand their background a little bit, or at least something about the culture to be effective. To do that.
Yeah, definitely.
And LinkedIn is a great platform. It's wonderful.
It is, and I think I certainly learn so much on there. As much as I connect with these wonderful people, I'm also learning all the time, which is the other thing I love about it. So obviously learning about you then, Doug, I wanted to talk about what you do on LinkedIn, because obviously what I've seen is you do a lot of video, which is fabulous because we get to see you, but you're often talking about kind of sales stuff, but people stuff and connection stuff. And I think that's why we connected. So how does that link to Microsoft, Doug?
Well, so, I think the connectivity piece, again, that's one of my top 5 talents. They all sort of connect in a sometimes rather an abstract way that you may not see, but it also allows me to exercise a muscle. So I love mentoring people inside Microsoft. So I get to mentor some of the new hires and some of the people who have been around for a bit. I got a question. Go ask Doug. He's got history. He's got these other things on that. But I like to do that. And about 8 months or so ago, I started venturing outside, doing the videos, doing these other things, but it's exercising that part a little bit more. So I get to do that more on a broader scale. And I talk about positivity, I talk about these other things because that's really what humans do. It's a conversation piece. And it should, even my customers would be able to see a little bit more about me in doing that, outside of what, okay, here's a specification, here's a business thing that goes on.
Yeah.
But this type stuff also gives me energy. It's not something that takes a lot, but it gives me energy. So it makes me more impactful in my Microsoft role when I'm out meeting people and doing that, because I've got the energy from exercising that muscle on LinkedIn area. So it may seem separate, but they're very much connected in the background. For if you look at Doug Thompson as a whole,
yeah,
I'm getting throw the whole thing out.
Yeah, that's really good. So like, obviously, I think, is it 18 years? It says on LinkedIn you've been.
Yeah, at the end of the month, it'll be 18 years at Microsoft.
Okay. How long are you going to still be at Microsoft, Doug? What's the plan?
Well, I've got a few more good years left in me. I hope. I still love what I do, and as long as for me perspective, as long as I'm impactful and I'm growing and I can help other people be really good, then it's great. I still wake up 80-90% of the time, and I'm just really fired up about to go. The other 10% of the time, any job has some of that stuff where you just, okay, well, I've got a report to do, or I've got this. There's some tasks that you have to do that everybody has in every job.
I agree.
I'm still passionate about it. I'm probably more passionate today than I was when I joined 18 years ago. So I see me doing this for a while longer. That doesn't mean I won't stop. I'll keep exercising my my other muscle of sort of positivity and the things I do on LinkedIn and public speaking. I'm passionate about sort of getting out and getting in front of people and getting a whole audience, because as you're about to do the TED Talk, or did you do that already, or you're about to?
I did it last year.
Yes, right.
But the video's not out yet.
That's right.
We're waiting for the video, Doug.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, but you got. I mean, I remember you writing about it. Is you just get so much energy back from the audience to do that.
Yeah,
and that is something that, as you look for energy sources to draw around, as we're constantly pulled in different directions, that's something I have a really good positive. And there, I hear I hear the dogs. So
you hear the dogs. We're on track. I said to Doug as we were starting to record, you will hear my dogs because my son is due in from school. So there they are. They came on cue, which is fabulous. Right. And, a podcast wouldn't be a podcast without my dogs in it. They always want to get part of it.
They have the co-starring also.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to talk about the public speaking, because it's really interesting concept, isn't it? I think there's a lot of people out there say, oh, I want to do public speaking. But actually, what's the real core reason for public speaking? Because it's very much now part of my business strategy.
Right.
And I'll talk about that a bit more as we talk. But what is it for you, Doug? What is it? I know it gives you that energy, which is quite clear. But what are you going to give me as the audience when you speak to me? What's your subject stuff?
They do sort of vary. So I've given very technical talks on some of these things, depending on the audience. I've been here lately. I've been doing some things with graduate students or college students, sort of on a career advice type thing, because a lot of these things they don't teach you, and some of it's selling yourself, right? So it's ability to say, here's a story, and really the overarching thing is enabling people to tell better stories. Because of the way our brain's wired, stories are so impactful to get your point across. And in sales, it's all about, okay, what is the story? What's the analogy, or what's the metaphor that relates to me, that makes it personal? So I like to learn a little bit about the audience that goes on. I'll have sort of, here's the core talk that I want to have. And then I'll spend some time before the sessions getting to meet some of the people and sort of getting a little insight to their story, so that at pieces, again, my mind is that thing's trying to connect dots in there, that I can pull that out and sort of personalize it to the audience. So the audience will get a personalized session. I never repeat the same one. I had somebody come up to me after one and said, that was the best session ever. Can you repeat it? I said, honestly, no. Can you tell me what I said? Because I get so involved into what's going on that, I'm building this plane as we're going down the runway. And sometimes it ends up in some, well, that didn't work out so well. Sometimes you have that.
But then it's very much from the heart, isn't it?
Yeah,
I guess. And, this is the other thing, because I'm a bit like you. I've obviously got a foundation for the subjects I talk about and where I want to take the audience on a journey. I've worked quite hard on that. I've kind of studied it, I guess, a bit. I've done courses and I've listened to the experts. So I've got that as my foundation. But it's a bit like you could say to me, well, what was your TED Talk about, Jules? Well, I can say to you, well, it was all about choice. The fact that we've always got a choice, okay?
Right.
That's as much as I can tell you, because actually, in so many ways, I can't wait to see it myself, because I'm really not quite sure.
Yeah, no, that was sort of like I was on Diana's podcast, or her karaoke, just doing karaoke, and we'd recorded that back in September, October, and I'm like, oh, please don't look bad. Please don't, because I couldn't remember what we talked about and all that.
That's the thing. But
Yeah.
I went out into the foyer in the interval and I had people come up to me and they were very genuinely saying it was inspiring and they loved my talk. So you have to say, it must have been okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you get one of those, then it makes the whole effort worth it. For the videos and stuff I've done on LinkedIn, I've got a couple coworkers or people I've worked in the past that have had job changes or something that went on, and they said, look, your videos kept me going.
Yeah.
Kept doing it. So when you have that feedback, even if it's just one or two people, it's worth it to go on and do that. Because at the end of the day, that's what I want to do, is to leave. My legacy would be that I made it a better place than when I came.
Yeah, I love that.
That's sort of my goal. My philosophy is to leave every interaction, with both sides, so having learned something and feeling better about the time we spent. So I hope at the end of this, you can grade this or not if we achieved on my philosophy there, but that's sort of what I look at it.
Oh, I think just talking to you has achieved that. It's been lovely so far. And the thing is, it's about that, you get a feeling with people, you get that warmth, you can see it's genuine, it's just, you're not having to think and put effort into saying the right things for the podcast. This is a genuine conversation that we have not planned, which is why I love doing my podcast,
Oh, yeah. If we had to read a script, this would be totally different because I can't read. The worst thing, I've had these things where they put a teleprompter in front of me. I'm like, I can't do it. My mind can't read and speak at the same time. I'd be horrible at a newscast.
It would be horrible, wouldn't it? It would be horrible. And of course, in my whole sales thing, I hate scripting. I always say, don't script, don't have a script. If you want to write some bullet points and maybe some sort of what I call killer questions, great. But don't script it, whatever you do, because you need to.
About the only thing I'll do is I'll sort of have a scripted opening, because when you get on stage, you have that 30 seconds to a minute or two to grab the audience's attention.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure I execute that well. So I spend a lot of time sort of thinking about that. What am I going to do on that and practice that? But after that, it's somewhat, okay, here's the dots and that I want to go on.
Yeah.
But sometimes I take a little side trips. We go based on somebody or comment, which is very interesting. Sometimes I honestly don't know where we're going to go, and we both learn something as we're going on to do this. It's somewhat exciting. You get that extra adrenaline. This could turn out really good or really, really bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be amazing. I mean,
it's going to be amazing one way or the other.
But you say about like that first opening kind of thing. I think you're right. It's good to know exactly how that's going to be, but you still have to be putting it in your language as you.
Oh yeah.
You can still do that, and I think that's really important for people to know that it's about your language and how you would say it, so you can practice it. But it just still needs to feel like it's you that's saying it.
It's got to be my words, which are
absolutely.
Grammar's not important in that.
No. So we've just touched on public speaking. I mean, I think it's a massive thing to add to your portfolio when you can stand up and do it. Not everyone can, but it's about what the audience take away. You're so right. If just that one person walks away inspired from listening to you speak, how amazing is that? So that's just brilliant. I love it. It's kind of why I do it too, I think, Doug, to be honest. So let's talk about life after Microsoft. And I know, maybe we can't kind of see that yet. I know you're still 21. We discussed this.
12.
Yeah, 12. But I think, what is next for you? Because I ask you that because we've connected because of your videos, the things that you say. I didn't even realize you worked for Microsoft. I've got to be honest with you.
Well, I need to work on that branding, I guess.
But in a way, I think that's a good thing because I was getting the brand Doug, which I think was a good thing.
And at the end of the day, you're in sales. People buy from people. They don't necessarily buy from companies, right?
Yeah.
And if I'm able to show people who I truly am, then I'm honest, right? I put it all out there to do that, so that when I do talk about a product or I do talk about how I can do, I should have some credibility because they know who I am and where I'm coming from. Now, if the words come out scripted or something else out of the other, then that should be a flag as well that, okay, there's something else, but that's never happened because I'm always trying to be consistent with my message.
Yeah.
But, everything comes to an end at some point in time, right? So I don't see that ending anytime soon. But the world is a weird place and all of that. So, but it would be much like my LinkedIn thing on it. I want to get down and coach. I was talking to somebody else the other day, connected with me, and we're talking about, we're sort of in the second half of our life that we go on with that one. I'd have taken better care in the first half if I'd known that, but we're talking, and now it's some time to give back, right? So I want to just, I want to help keep speaking. Of course, I've got a book in my head, which, we've talked about, and I probably need your help to get it out of my head. Keeps running around.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them, but just continue that on, helping people, and again, leaving this place a better place, and giving people skills that, more importantly than helping one individual, I want to sort of draw on people that then have that same desire to go help somebody else. Because then that's that multiplier that goes on, right? So 1 equals 2 equals 4 equals 8. So it just sort of keeps on doubling like that. And that is true impact to go on to it as you can scale and do that. So that's the people I hope to attract that are coming on. I mean, a lot of great connections on that are on similar paths to do that. But I need to, when I retire, that I still need something to keep me engaged. I'm not one to sit off and, just fish. I can't do that. I've got to be doing and engaging with people. Because I think when I get to that point where I'm not engaging with people anymore, then my time on the planet is going to be probably very short.
Yeah, I feel the same, Doug. I just think, people make the world go round, don't they? And that connection is really important to me. And I know it is the people I'm connected with as well. It's huge.
Yeah, and it can either be a positive ride or it can be a negative ride. And I much prefer the positive ride of that. It's just, I want to do that, and as long as I can do that, either at Microsoft and then, post Microsoft as well.
I think, we didn't really know what necessarily we were going to talk about today. We didn't put a subject title on this. Sometimes I do with my podcast because somebody's coming with a particular kind of subject they want to talk about. But I think what we've talked about actually is about personal brand. I don't know what you think, but that's kind of how I'm feeling this.
Well, and I appreciate you. That's one of the things that was sort of, I went through a branding exercise with somebody. She works at Microsoft on that one, and her name's Miri Rodriguez, and she's got a storyteller title on that. I said, well, that's really cool. I want your job. But she's such a great personality and very genuine with that. And she was asking those tough questions that you have. We were all sort of, we have to find, or to quote Simon Sinek, what's our why, right?
Yes.
That gets down to important to that.
Love him.
And it was these questions. Exactly. It was a questions. Okay. I would tell her one thing and she'd say, why? And then I said, what, are you 5 years old? You're going to ask me why all the time? But the essence was to get down to that one thing where you can't reduce it, the least common denominator. And I was out on a run one day, and I was just really struggling with it for 2 or 3 days. You get into things where if you start thinking about something too much, it sort of hides behind a wall. You can't crack that wall because you start repeating the same thoughts over and over. You get caught in a loop. And I was out on a run, which tends to, that's the best place for me to go out and think for things, exercising somewhere when I'm in there. It's just me in my head and the exercising. And it dawned on me is that if you go back to biblical times and all that, and Jesus, he was a servant. He went out there to do that. And if you come from that background and that experience, we were put here to serve other people. So at the end of the day, that is the root of why I want to do it. Yeah, it makes me feel good. Yes, and I could make a couple dollars on it. Yes, it adds some fame, I guess, if you want, to that, which is not as important to that. But at the end of the day, again, it gets down to the root that I've helped somebody else, and then hopefully they can go on. So that's very true to what the brand that I want to go on with that one. So that was a great exercise. It was painful. Sometimes digging down to that why is not fun and very frustrating. Because it's you sort of protect it, right? You don't, for whatever reason, you protect that.
Yeah, you do. And sometimes I think we don't do this exercise. We don't say to ourselves, well, why? Well, because it sounds like, but why? And there's a thing certainly in the UK that I've heard called the 5 whys. And it's the same principle that actually by the time you've asked why 5 times, you should actually get to the root reason of why somebody's doing something or why they want to do something. And it's really interesting because I use this in the work I do. I love Simon Sinek. I found him only last year, but suddenly it was like he was just clarifying everything I knew to be true. And it was like, yes, I found this amazing man who thinks the same as me. But the other thing that he talks about is always selling or always coming from a place of giving, not expecting anything back. So he does a wonderful YouTube video around presentation and storytelling, which I also use with pitching in some of my workshops. And he always says, go in from a place of giving, not expecting anything back, and you'll do the best sales pitch that you've ever done. And I think what a wonderful way to look at it.
No, I think you're right. And you know, it's sort of funny in the arena that I'm at in the education space. There's a lot of stuff that we make an investment in education that it doesn't cost them anything, or it costs them very little. And my goal is, when I go in, is to, if they've got problems with this, enable something new that they've expressed that they want. Again, I'm not, you know, I'm not one of those that just tries, okay, I've got this number to meet and you're going to help me meet that regardless of what the outcome. I want you to only, and I don't really call it selling. You're paying me to help, or you're paying my company to help you solve a problem.
Yes.
You're not buying anything. And if you buy it and you don't solve that problem, then I feel like I've cheated you.
Yeah.
And so I want to sit there and go and do that. That's the place I come from.
Yeah.
On that. It's not to, you know, you're in sales, you have numbers, you have these other things, but I firmly believe that if I'm doing that part right, if I'm going in and coming from that giving place of helping them solve the challenges or enabling something new that they have, that the rest, that other stuff will take care of itself.
Oh, I totally agree. Couldn't agree more. And I've been worked in corporates who have chased the numbers, and that's all they've looked at. That's all they've cared about. And you never really sell with integrity. I mean, I always did, but you know, you find then the team doesn't. All they're doing is chasing the target. They're selling the wrong things to the wrong customers for the wrong reasons. And that's why Live It, Love It, Sell It was born, Doug, because of that, you know, that experience to say, this is not how we should be selling. We should not be chasing numbers, because the numbers will still come if you sell in the right way. I'm very passionate about that, as you know.
No, I 100% agree. And I'm lucky that everybody I work with, we're on the same page. The company itself, it's sort of, you know, are they consuming what they buy? Because that's the ultimate measure of success. Are they doing that? Yeah. And you know, that's just that's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
right.
Most definitely. Well, listen, I have loved our conversation. I feel like we have definitely talked about personal brand. That's what's come through for me all the way. Is just like, actually, I've connected with you, not because you worked for Microsoft, which is actually the lovely thing about this. I've connected because I saw your videos. I loved what you said. So I connected with your personal brand. And how amazing is that?
Well, then I've done what I set out to do. Then it's sort of, you never know how that's going to land. I couldn't verbalize it if I, you know, when I still sort of need to sharpen that, I guess. But I like, it gets back to sort of the personalization. Somebody asks, well, what do you do? And I want to always try to frame it from where they're coming from, or what is your brand on that one? And it may, at the core, it's still the same. It's coming from a giving and wanting to make other, but the spin on it may be slightly different for their situation to go with that. Although it gets back down to that fifth why is why you do that.
Yeah, it does.
And again, I'm very fortunate with what the people at Microsoft here have allowed me to do. And it's such a great company to go on and do. I'm not trying to sell the company, but I'm just, I'm thankful for doing that and being allowed to go do and exercise these other muscles and stuff that we have on that.
Yeah, it's amazing. So what do you want from the podcast? Because obviously, like, it's been great to get to know you and chat with you. It's another dimension for me to add to my podcast. But how do you want to connect with people, Doug, from this podcast?
Just connect with me up on LinkedIn. I'm trying to start an Instagram thing. Michael Henson and I are going to do this sort of a fitness thing. I made an announcement in a video today on LinkedIn. We're going to hold each other accountable for getting out of shape. No, we're going to get back into shape, but we're out of shape. But we want to have fun, and if you want to, if you're one of those nerds, or if you're something out there and want to talk about technical selling or something, reach out to me on this one. Because like I said, right now I'm just exercising that muscle, and I like doing it. And if you got speaking gigs, I like bangers and mash. I'm just happy to go and do that. And I'm thinking about again, like my book, I've got a podcast in mind as well that I want to highlight storytelling. Yeah. And if you come down to the three components, I want you to introduce yourself. Okay, what's your struggle? What's the drama in the middle, and sort of how you overcame that? But I would love to have you on when I get to that point of that and be a little bit reciprocal.
I would love to be on it. I would love to be on it. That would be amazing, Doug. I can't wait. When are you starting it? Let me hold you accountable.
My goal right now, and this is fitting for me, is April 1st, so April Fool's Day. I want to start that. It's just okay, that's brilliant. I like that. That's perfect.
Yeah, I love that because that's also the month of my birthday. So we are.
Oh, okay.
This is good.
Well, happy birthday.
Oh, good. Thank you. And it's my big 50. It's my big 50, isn't it? So
it doesn't look so bad in the rearview mirror. So
You're very kind. You're very kind. Yeah. So look, I'm going to put the links so that everybody knows how to find you on LinkedIn. I think that if you want to connect with Doug, obviously on the tech side, he's going to be amazing. But I think on the inspiration side, he's going to be really great to follow.
Thank you. Now, I'm the Doug Thompson on just about any platform.
Great.
So there's a reason behind that, because anybody can be a Doug Thompson. I wanted to be the Doug Thompson. And it also gives me something I have to live up to. I mean, that's a pretty high bar there. So I have to keep working at it.
I love it. I love it so much. Doug, thank you so much. You're amazing. Thanks for joining me. I've loved our human conversation. And if everybody who has been listening has loved this, which I know they will have done, then give us some thumbs up, give us some likes, and subscribe. We're on iTunes, we're on SoundCloud, we're on Spotify now. Yeah, that's the new one, Spotify. And I honestly really love making these podcasts. So please keep listening and keep your reviews coming in. Fabulous. Have a great day. And I will see you next time. Ta-da for now.
You've just been listening to the Human Conversation podcast with Jules White. To find out more about the other work that Jules does, please visit her website, www.liveitloveitsellit.co.uk. And if you enjoyed the podcast, then please do leave a rating and review on the platform you use to enjoy her show. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.